You're listening to the Barbecue Nerds podcast, where smoke meets science and flavor is our favorite experiment. Hey, barbecue lovers, I'm David, your resident pitmaster and science geek. Along with my co-host, Frank, we're diving deep into the world of barbecue, where tradition meets innovation. Now, let's get to today's episode. So we've got a question from El Presidente coming in. He wants to know, did mopping exist before saucing? Now that's an excellent question.
I have to be honest, I don't know. I would imagine it does. I would have to consult ChatGPT or the Google to really answer that question.
We're supposed to be nerds. We're supposed to be nerding out.
I haven't nerded out on that part yet.
This is like, did the chicken come before the egg? Did the mop happen before the sauce?
I would say probably. It would be my guess. If it didn't, I'll be surprised. Let's say it that way.
I'm going to go with you on that one and say that you're correct. Because getting back to the natural juices that are dripping down, you would think that over time, let's go back to medieval times, as a matter of fact, as they're roasting an entire carcass of an animal. All those juices dripping down, I'm sure, were then put back onto the animal as it's basting. So that in itself wouldn't be a saucing. That would be more of a mopping. So I'm going with that one. I'm mop.
Yeah.
So Trumpet Master's chiming in saying that Sucklebuster's peach glaze is amazing, and the sauce is all good in Texas, but mostly on the side. It is considered to be a condiment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you watch like the Goldies videos when they go in there and they're working the ribs, whatever, and they got that cool squirt gun bottle that's got the 3 little tips on it, for going in there. I can't remember what they call that sauce. I think Ant's Barbecue Cookout and somebody else, Chud, I know, has talked about it. Somebody else talked about it too. What's in that sauce, I know that Anthony did it. So might go check his channel out to see what's in there. But it's super wet, super, super thin. Spray it on, rock and roll on ribs.
I do love ribs. Ever since this craze now of salt and pepper ribs, which I'm going to go back to saying that that's a Texas thing, I really like the dry rubs. I'm not a big fan of the sticky ribs. Growing up, my dad would do, when he did ribs, it was heavy with garlic and a KC Masterpiece. I remember that one. Back to Kansas City again. But my palate has changed, and I tend to just like that dry seasoning. And if I'm going to put anything on there, you're right. It's a sauce that's been cut. It's a thinner sauce. It's more watery than it is something that's viscous, like a ketchup based.
Yeah, you don't want it to be overpowering. Is the thing. No. You want to taste the meat. That's the thing. Is you want to get in there and taste that whatever that. You want the beef to come out. Of whatever it is if you're cooking beef. Now, as far as other regions of sauces, we can't forget the Carolinas when we get into the mustard and the vinegar realm of sauces. Ooh. And I will say that a good mustard sauce is one of my top 10 favorites for sure. And I really like a red pepper vinegar kind of a sauce as well, like a finishing sauce on pork. Can't beat those. As a matter of fact, I think that's a lot of what, like when you see these guys taking the hog and they're chopping it all up.
Yep.
They'll douse inside that hog with that vinegar finishing sauce. And I remember the first recipe that I got for that it was actually Tulsa Jeff is who I got it from in an email when you signed up for Smoking Meat Forums back in the day. That was where he was sending out those emails periodically if you signed up for that. But I got a recipe for that one time, and it's great. I love it. But the mustard sauce, a good mustard sauce, Carolina Gold mustard sauce is what I think I really do enjoy. But then if you want to go even farther south, Big Bob Gibson's and Chris Lilly, they came up with that white barbecue sauce, Alabama white sauce. I can't forget about that. I love that too. Horseradish, mayo, the whole bit, pepper.
I'm a big fan of horseradish. And now you're really building this French dip for me, because now I've got the au jus and I've got some horseradish on the side to put onto this thing. You're building me the perfect sandwich tonight.
Cool.
So we went to South Carolina, which is great. I do love that Carolina Gold. We got ourselves out there to the Alabama white sauce. But I think if we got to North Carolina, being that we were just talking about that pig, now we're back to Rodney Scott. We're back to the Sam Jones barbecue, such as like Eastern North Carolina, where it's all vinegar and pepper. There's no rub. It's just a sauce that cuts through the fat of a whole hog. Whereas Western North Carolina adds a touch of tomato for that Lexington style dip. I've always liked that the version that Sam Jones does. It's just something very traditional, not only about the way that he makes the hog, but how you go back 2 generations, even 3 generations of his family, and they stuck to their guns with just vinegar and pepper. That's all you put on. And he doesn't season it that way. He puts the seasoning on the side for you.
Yeah. Well, and then you're getting into that Eastern Tennessee up into the Carolinas. You're talking about that tomato, and that's where Blues Hog Tennessee Red kind of has its roots. Whereas if you get over into Memphis area, that's where the original Blues Hog barbecue sauce where Bill Arnold came up with that, which is a lot thicker. It's like molasses coming out of that jar. I remember early on, it was a glass mason jar, and I just bought it because it was in a mason jar. That's the whole reason I bought that. I never heard the name before. Is in the local grocery store. And I tell you, the first time we had it, we were just like, this is the best thing we've ever had in our lives. And we've just stayed with that. But there's a few blends of that you can do. Like I mentioned earlier, blended Blues Hog with the Head Country sauce for that kind of more bold, beefy. It really goes well on beef if you're in the competition circuit anyway, that's what we used to do. But then head over to the pork side of the arena. Now you're mixing Blues Hog Original with Tennessee Red, and I think that's what they call the Champions blend.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. When I thought of Champions blend, I thought that was because it was award-winning. They were the champions.
No, it's the blend of the 2 sauces.
Okay.
And then now on the competition trail, they're starting to add maple syrup and everything else to that stuff. I mean, like this glass jar maple syrup that they're pouring on when they wrap ribs or pork. My buddy Del Fort showed that to me. That's what he does. So you just can't get sweet enough and thick enough, it sounds, these days on pork, which is kind of getting us up into that, just the different blends and things that people come up with, mixing different sauces. Have you played with that at all?
I've experimented with different sauces. I've been one to buy a commercial sauce and then I'll put my own tricked out ingredients into it. You hear people say this all the time, things like Sweet Baby Ray's, things like Blues Hogs. This is the base to whatever they're then going to make their sauce out of. And that way there's that consistency all the time that what that base is. It already has that sweetness, that tanginess, and then maybe you want a little bit more heat. Or maybe you want a little bit more saltiness, or the word these days is umami. You want that umami feel. Correct. But
mushrooms.
What I'm gaining from this is that every region has got its own signature. It's like a barbecue fingerprint. It's tied to the land. It's the wood and the people. Going back to Kansas City, they're known for their burnt ends. That's a signature Kansas City item, whereas Texas is going to be that brisket. That's what we think of. We think of the Carolinas, we think of pork, we think of pigs. So each one is very unique, and the type of flavors and profiles and seasonings that we use are significant to the type of barbecue that we're going to serve from that region. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, is the fusion is taking a little bit of different flavor from different places. Texas right now, notorious for a lot of the Mexican influence, hence Tex-Mex. What we're seeing now, a lot of popularity coming in with that live fire Argentinian type of cooking that is starting to be seen more often now in Texas. South Texas, again, has more of that Mexican type of flavor, whereas our central and northern Texas still sticking to their guns with salt, pepper, and garlic. Even though they don't want to talk about the garlic, everyone goes, no. It's just kosher salt and black pepper. Right. Till we look at it, and then suddenly there's some sumac in that. There's Lowry seasoning salt. There's sugar. There's all these other things that no one wants to talk about. It goes back to the wine industry. You look at a bottle, it says Cabernet Sauvignon. As long as it's 85% Cabernet grape, the other 15%, no one has to talk about. It's the same thing here. 85% of it might just be salt and pepper, but that 15% is what really tricks it out and makes that person's rub, that person's barbecue, just that much more different than the neighbor across the street who's also making barbecue. And of course,
Absolutely.
the woods and the pit, and the Pitmaster has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, at least 50%, right?
At least, correct.
See, we got any questions in here we can answer real quick in the comments? I like it. Comments are just rolling right now.
Well, Trumpet Master is very favorable of the Rodney Scott sauce. He says it's friggin' banging. He uses it as salad dressing, and then get this one. Hojo doubles down with them and wants to know, could you use this for a Bloody Mary? That's a great question. Trumpet, that one's on you. We're waiting on the reply. Have you put that into your Sunday Bloody Mary? Or have you tried that in any other type of adult beverage?
Well, on the Bloody Mary topic, I've never liked them. However, I know that whenever we're doing the turn-ins and stuff like that, fortunately, there's always somebody around that on my team or who I'm cooking around that is good at it. And so they'll make the Bloody Mary. But what we wind up doing is just shoving sticks in there that's got like everything you can think of on it. Maybe wrapped in maybe like some ABTs. We put those in one time. Take one of those long skewer-looking toothpick things and put a bunch of burnt ends on it. Shove it in there. You know, you garnish it up. Have you seen the really meaty ones like that?
I have. Yes.
Yeah, they look crazy. Of course, for Sunday morning, I don't know. But
the Bloody Mary has gotten so carried away that you have this small glass that looks like a vase with everything else coming out of it that looks like a bouquet.
Yeah. At that case, you almost got to put something on it. You got to sweeten that thing up because aren't they spicy? The ones I've always had were really spicy, and I
love a very, very spicy Bloody Mary. I love the pepper in there, the Tabasco that's in that, the tomato juice. As a kid, I was never like people would drink V8. The thing was V8 keep your body straight. Never liked V8 and never liked tomato juice. Now as an adult, I look forward to having a Sunday Bloody Mary. My palate is evolving.
You know, that's another thing about Texas, at least on the competition circuit. There was a whole host of pepper jellies that came out that were being used. Craig Sherry is one of them. He made his Texas pepper jelly. There's someone else, Sucklebusters is what Trumpet mentioned. There was some others I'm thinking of right now. Well, here's one I never heard of. Trumpet Master brought up this Gabrick barbecue. Candy jalapeno. Have you messed with pepper jelly much?
I haven't, but candied jalapeno sounds delicious right about now.
Dude, pepper jelly is a whole nother level. I love pepper jelly. Like, love it. A little cream cheese on a cracker and some pepper jelly, jalapeno. It'll set you right straight. There you go. Going through, looking here real quick. Keep it G-rated, please. Juices dripping down.
Trumpet's very active tonight. He's letting us know that Bloody Mary to him equals a heartburn, whereas DeMoose loves a good Sunday Bloody Mary. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Barbecue Nerds podcast, where smoke meets science and flavor always comes first. This episode is brought to you by Smoke Slinger, the craftsman behind some of the best barbecue pits and offset smokers in the game. Whether you're a backyard warrior or a pro pitmaster, Smoke Slinger builds custom pits designed to help you cook your best barbecue ever. Visit smokeslinger.com to see their lineup and bring competition quality smoke to your own backyard. A big shout out to Smoke Slinger for fueling our passion and keeping the smoke rolling strong. And as always, keep those pits hot, the smoke rolling, and stay nerdy about barbecue.